Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. It's Only Sport iOS. That's the name of our live radio show, the only truly independent daily sports radio show in New Zealand, airing on the platform 1 till 4 weekdays. You've got to download that app. This is the next best thing. If you can't listen to us live, well, we put a highlights package together of some of the interviews, some of the chat. Grant Dalton on the program today, Team New Zealand boss, leaving tomorrow for Barcelona. That's the whole crew, apart from those involved with Sail GP. They have been testing the new boat, Taihoro, for 2 weeks. So how fast is she? Are we allowed to call it a she? You normally call boats she's, don't you? How much better is our technology? Who has the edge in technology? How do you even know? Grant Dalton was on the show. Reinga Bloxham, Southern Steel coach. 2 years between drinks. Almost 2 calendar years between wins. 713 days. They'd lost 21 straight till on the weekend when they beat the Northern Stars in overtime. And they were down 8 goals to start the fourth quarter. What was the feeling like? Did she let her players celebrate? And, you know, once that record has been broken, well, yeah, what happens now? You've got to go on from here, you know. I mean, there's, you know, there's a romance attached to the losing streak, but once it ends, well, you're just a bad team that's won one game, right? So Reinga Bloxham on the radio with us as well. And ATM, that's the Apologise to Me podcast, episode 82, Mark Watson, talking about the Crusaders, talking about the Warriors, and talking about also Team New Zealand. We start the show the same way every day, and my God, you know, today, my football team deserved it, copped it, got it. Tablets in hand, gather my flock. It's time for a sermon, and you lot are going to get a right slap. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Tossers, pullers, twiddlers, fiddlers, spankers, yankers. Starts with the W, rhymes with tankers. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about my Man United football team. And it's not just today I'm feeling like this after getting dicked by Crystal Palace 4-0 this morning. Shameful result. That's the double that they've done over us. Yeah, 13 losses now this year. The most in a Premier League season. Haven't conceded as many goals since 1976-77. But this isn't new. No. This has been going on all season. I'm going to take you back to the rant that I did in September after we lost 3-1 at home to Brighton. Nothing has changed since. Oh yeah. I got a moan on it, right? I am gutted. I'm not just sick on it, I'm sick of it. What a lot of pony. Utter bollocks, rubbish, bunch of trash that deserves to be thrown out with it. I'm talking my football team. Man United, 12,000 miles away. Supported them for what, 47, 48 years now? And no, we haven't always been good. During that time, we had a brilliant 2-decade period under Sir Alex. But now, most of the time, we are mostly average. Until this latest lot on the weekend dug new depths. Pathetic. I'm talking attitude and effort, pathetic. And that's why they deserve to cop it big time. From the crowd, from all fans. You're not United players. Most of you are nothing but a bunch of posers and pretenders living off past glories earned by guys that you have as much connection to as I have. Bunch of fakers, bunch of Instagram pullers. No effort, no commitment, earning way too much money for what? For turning up pretending? Done nothing, won nothing, bunch of pussies. And you deserve today, tomorrow, next day, next week to be constantly reminded of it. I'm gutted, I'm bitter, I'm twisted, I'm angry, I am sick. You think you're something just by wearing a United strip? Think again, dicks, because what you are starts with a sh and rhymes with kit.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Anyway, let's talk about the America's Cup next. What have we got in the headlines, mate?
Oh, Mike wasn't on. I'll start off with NRL-related stuff.
Go on.
NRL referees boss Graham Annesley has backed the original decision to not award the Warriors a penalty try in Sunday's defeat to the Newcastle Knights. Is that not ruffling your feathers a bit there, Marty?
Well, no, because he said, look, it comes down to not could have scored a try, would have scored.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just interpretation. It's open to interpretation. That wasn't the reason the Warriors lost.
It's not an automatic penalty try. There's no such thing as an automatic penalty try, Graham Annesley said. Clearly, the bunker felt there was too much doubt there's two players contesting the ball. The key thing for me was that Dalton caught the ball, had possession and lost it.
Well, again,
I think that actually plays a part in it. Now,
Andrew Webster asked for a clarification, and good on Anderson, he's given it. So there's no such thing as an automatic penalty try. I thought there was. I thought there was, but obviously, no, wrong. Okay. I'll accept it.
Meanwhile, the NRL has maintained that anger directed at referee Casey Badger during Saturday's clash between the West Tigers and the Canterbury Bulldogs was not a gender issue. As it emerged, the female whistleblower deactivated her social media accounts every weekend to avoid reading hateful messages. Olympics-related news for New Zealand. Billy Stearman and Safi Vetti will carry the surfing flag. That's an interesting name, Safi Vetti. They'll carry the surfing flag for New Zealand at this year's Paris Olympics, but apparently it's not even in Paris. It's going to be in Tahiti.
Yeah. Okay, we've been to Paris. Where's the beach again?
South of France. There's a beach there.
Well,
Is it a surf beach? Tahiti's quite far.
Tahiti's got a great surf break.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Well, you're quite the surfer.
I've actually read a bit about this. Okay?
Have you shuckered some waves lately? I don't even know if that...
Yeah. When I'm not hanging 5, I hang 10.
Okay. A robust security plan has been put in place for the T20 Cricket World Cup in June. The organisers of the competition stating today after reports of a possible threat to the global showpiece surfaced in the Caribbean media. Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Keith Rowley told UK media about a possible security threat to the 20-team event to be co-hosted by West Indies and the United States. A new low for Manchester United, Martin, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No
Okay.
question. Yep.
4-0. The Red Devils have been thumped in the English Premier League playing away to Crystal Palace this morning. Now, Crystal Palace have a new manager. He's Austrian. His name is Oliver Glasner. He took over on the 19th of February. He oversaw his first match in charge against Burnley at home, a 3-0 win. Since he's taken over, Palace have won 5, drawn 3, lost 3. They are unbeaten in their last 5, which includes 4 wins. Those 4 wins against Liverpool at Anfield. They also beat Newcastle, West Ham, and have now just hammered Manchester United. All 4 of those teams, Liverpool, Newcastle, West Ham, and Man United, are in the top half of the table. Palace still remain in the bottom half. Palace have scored 13 goals in that stretch. They've conceded 3.
Yeah, well, everyone
10.
wants that form. You want that form. If you had that form, you'd still be in the title race.
I absolutely agree. I'd love that form.
I'm just actually texting Billy Stearman here.
You are?
Yeah,
you got his number?
Yeah, just see whether we'll get an interview with him tomorrow.
Oh, good on you.
Brilliant.
I've got his number too.
Great.
Doing my job.
Yeah.
All right. It's official. West Ham manager David Moyes will leave the club at the end of the Premier League season. The club has confirmed. He's quite a contentious manager, polarising in many ways. He gets results, but he coaches a boring brand of football, you could say. The Central Pulse have suffered a major injury blow in the ANZ Premiership. They've lost starting centre Matty Gordon for up to 12 weeks. Not good news at all. What else was going on? Oh, World Snooker Championships. That's what's going on. An emotional Kyron Wilson claimed his first world title with a nervy 18-14 victory over Jack Jones at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield. And NBA playoffs continuing today. The New York Knicks at home to the Indiana Pacers, game 1 of their semi-final series. The Pacers are up 78-73. Google's a little bit behind Game Pass, which I have on my laptop here, Martin. 82-77.
82-77, yeah.
Yeah, 43 seconds to go in the third quarter. At 2 o'clock today, it's Game 2 between the Denver Nuggets, the defending NBA champs, up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Game 2 in Denver. Game 1 was in Denver, but it was claimed by the road team, Minnesota winning that one. So that tips off at 2 p.m. today. That's what's making news.
Devlin.
Oh, my goodness me!
The platform.
Team New Zealand defending the America's Cup in Barcelona this year as well. You know, yeah, that's caused a lot of controversy. So is the Saudi connection. And Grant Dalton just paying out the previous Auckland City Council, previous Labor government, the media, everybody. When the boat was named, Taihoro, a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks in the water, now testing. So how fast are we technology-wise? Are we ahead of the curve? How do we know we're ahead of the curve? Who are the major rivals? Has he been studying the pictures of the other teams that have been plastered all over the press as they name and show their boats, the AC-75s that are going to be contesting this cup? Grant Dalton. Grant, you're leaving this week then, mate, and that's it. You're not coming back till the whole thing's over?
Yeah, exactly. And it's looking at these boats and all the pictures and all the study we're doing. It's not going to be that easy, that's for sure.
You've been testing for the best part of a couple of weeks since the naming. How's it been going?
It's actually gone really well. There's a couple of reasons for that. We've had exceptionally good weather, and by that I mean a range of conditions, and just the way it's panned out, we've been able to chase the breeze out to get lighter wind and then come in closer, say, and get more wind, so sail through a range. And also the boat's been straight out of the shed, incredibly reliable. So that's allowed us to sail 14 days out of 18.
Wow.
And you go, well, that's what you do. You go sailing, right? But to put that in perspective, we normally work on about 2.5 to 3 days a week with these boats. So, we're kind of a month or more of sailing in 2 weeks. So it's pretty good. It's a big effort by the guys. It really is.
How fast are you going?
Well, it doesn't really matter, just as long as you're going faster than the other guys. And until we put the race foils on, because we're still working with our old foils from last time, which were pretty good, but nothing like as advanced as the new lot. We don't really know. It appears that we're going fine, but I mean, in the end, how fast we're going or not going or whatever has got really irrelevant, other than to how we're going against the opposition when we race them. And as I say, we're poring over recon photos and modelling their boats, etc. And this ain't no pushover, I can tell you.
So just in terms of the new boat itself, if you put the brand new foils on, how much of a difference does it make, or do you think it's going to make? How much has it got to do with those foils, and how much has it got to do with that new deck design and the sails and everything else?
Well, everything's interplayed, right? But here's one way to think about it. Water is viscous drag like 1,000 times air. So if a hull is, and everybody gets fixated on the hulls, and to a point, that's great. They look good. They're easy to see. You can visually see differences. They're different colours and all that sort of thing. But to a point, the hulls just stop people falling on the water, so long as they're all much of a muchness. So there might be 2 or 3 seconds here on a 20-minute race between a hull and particular conditions or whatever. But if you get a foil wrong, or put another way, you get the foil right, you can be, more than a minute or more faster than a guy. So I guess the way to think about it is that the viscous drag, or the stuff in the water, accounts for about 80% of the overall drag of the boat. And cars don't go very well without engines, right? So people they look at the sails and they go, well, that's nice, they're carbon sails. But there's a massive difference in the sails between the teams, or one gets it right and the others don't. So you really do have to put the entire package on the water. And there's never is going to have been in a foiling environment generation more real than from what we can see this cup will be.
With your foils, is it about the composite of those foils, or is it about the angles of them, or is it just that delicate combination of both?
Well, they're all steel. Everybody's a steel. So the first thing is you got to decide, when each team makes its own decisions, what they believe their kind of yield strength is. So how thin or how small can they go within their own calculations of safety before they yield? And yield means they bust and sink. So that's the first thing that the teams need to do. The next thing is they got to decide on whether they believe that they're working in a laminar flow environment or a turbulent flow environment. Then they got to work out how big they think they can be for takeoff, because if they're too big, they help you take off, but then you've got to drag them through the ocean. If they're too small, you can't take off, depending on the shape. So it's again all these combinations that the engineers and the designers and the yachties honestly are a huge part of this, is because they feel this. And I mean, Tukey and Andy Maloney, who are the foil trimmers, they feel this through their hands. And it's a really fluid and dynamic environment that these foils are developed in with the scientists. I mean, it's quite a unique environment to work in, and it's amazing.
Grant Dalton is with us, boss of Team New Zealand, off this week, and of course it all starts in October. All right, so did you see the pictures of the Ineos boat? Yeah. Yep,
seen the pictures of the Ineos boat. We've seen all the pictures of everything. In fact, only a few hours ago we saw the first of Luna Ross's race foils, which look just fine. The Ineos boat's really interesting. I think we can see the influence of a Formula One team in there. A boat that, I mean, there's two kind of schools of thought. One is that you, through the hull, you can create effectively downforce or righting moment in the same way a car creates downforce, or Formula One car's the easiest way to think about it. Or you can take an approach where the righting moment which creates drag, your DRS is shut. Or you can take an approach where your DRS is open all the time. You have less drag, but then you don't go around the corners quite so well in terms of a car because you haven't got as much downforce. So there's sort of two approaches, or you can find some compromise in the middle. In our view, and I'm talking like I'm an engineer and designer, which I'm most definitely not, Ineos has gone into the corner of this approach of righting moment or downforce in motor racing terms. Although when we model their boat, and we can only do that through pictures and set it up in different wind speeds and look at it from an aerodynamic point of view, we still don't see a massive amount of difference in the end product, only in the hull, which is such a small part. Although it's very visual, it's quite a small part of the picture. But I think they're more in a different part of the rule, if you like, than we are.
How do you know that you're ahead on the technology thing, or don't you know?
No, we don't know. I wish we did know. I'd be sleeping a little better already. I mean, I'm worried. I'm worried in a competitive sense, as you should be, because it keeps us, all of us are, and we keep working hard. But we don't know we're ahead at all. We know what we can see. We have a culture very much where we don't go, we thought of that, that's a crap idea, because it's quite easy for designers to think that way. I've seen it in other kind of campaigns as such, but our guys don't think that way. They look at what someone's done, and everybody's got good ideas. If we see something that we think is clever, we won't say, yeah, crap, we thought of that, it's a stupid idea. We'll copy it. And I think that's really important culturally. And I don't know whether all teams think like that. They might. But as we look at all the boats, they've got different strengths and weaknesses, not a lot of weaknesses. And they'll perform slightly different in different conditions. But they're all coming to conclusions to answer the same problems. They're just slightly coming to them different, but ultimately they'll go very similar in speed, I think.
Yeah, what I'm trying to get my head around is how do you know what the next best piece of technology is, and how do you know who that person is that's got that inside their brain, or do you just believe that your guys are those guys?
Well, the guys that we have are the guys that we have, right? So we believe 100% in our guys. I think it's the nature of engineers in an inventive world that they're always looking, they're always thinking, they're always, trying different things in simulation, because these days we're so heavily within simulation that we don't have to build it, we can simulate it, and we know through our computer programs and our actual simulators themselves that we can model this in real life if we build it. So they're just already, and I think one of the big lessons, probably the biggest lesson from San Francisco, and they were lessons well learned, was that you've got to keep developing. You've got to keep developing until the last race. I mean, you have to win the last race, right? Mm-hmm. We've got a regatta in August when all the boats will be pretty much be coming to the party with their best dresses on. And you'll get a feel for that, but you'll still keep developing after that. You must.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
Just started T-Dubs and Denver, so we'll keep you updated right throughout the afternoon on this. Topics to talk about. A new low for Man United. No penalty try. Dallin Watani-Zelezniak against Newcastle. Annesley very clear about that. The NBA today. Locke, what have you learned so far? Fafita for the Panthers or the Roosters. Now, there's a Twitter poll, just a woman who used to be a Panthers cheerleader.
Yeah.
And so she's done a Twitter poll about this. Nobody wants Fafita. This is Andrew Fafita.
David
Fafita to go to the Roosters. Why is that? You can explain it to me. Southern Steel get a win, and Warriors, what changes would you make? Because I don't believe that there'll be any changes made to that team. You heard from Graham Lowe there in the news. All of us are thinking the same thing. There's got to be some changes. There's got to be some responsibility taken by those players who aren't playing well at the moment. But I think Andrew Webster will give them one more shot against the Roosters. And what say the Roosters put 40 or 50 on? Because that's entirely possible the way they're playing at the moment. Then what? Because the next game is against the Penrith bloody Panthers. A new low for Man United. Now, when I say a new low for Man United, do remember last year, the dreaded enemy, Liverpool, beat us 7-0.
A sight of goal. A wonderful finish. Cody Gakpo. Shaw was being careful not to handle it. And Darwin Núñez. Gakpo. 3. Salah. Good night and good luck. Here is Darwin Núñez. It is 5-0. Salah.
Oh, stop this, mate. Stop it. You don't have to keep playing this.
It's in. It's 7.
I think we'll get the bloody point. All right. Floor is open, Lock, and you can ask me questions here. I don't have to talk about this. I'm sick to the core of it. I've been watching it all year, this season, last season, whatever.
I don't know what to ask because I know what the answers are going to be. Because the fact is, it's not Eric Ten Hag's fault for manager.
No, it's not.
This is going to be manager number 4 or 5 since Sir Alex Ferguson.
6 or 7.
6, excuse me. Yeah, if you count Ralph Rangnick. And again, it's a group of players who have been there for about 3 or 4 managers. I mean, Bruno Fernandes, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Diogo Dalot. Wan-Bissaka. My goodness, how does he still play?
How does he still
Marcus
play?
Rashford, Anthony Martial.
All of these players.
All of these guys have been there for about 3 or 4 managers. Could even be 5 for some of them. And for whatever reason, the club, look, I understand it's harder to sell a whole lot of players than it is to sack a manager. But my goodness, you've had 3 or 4 transfer windows since Ralph Rangnick said, and granted his tenure there wasn't great, but he wasn't there to fix things. He was there to essentially assess the situation and tell people, okay, this is what needs to be done. And he said, it's not cosmetic surgery. This club needs open heart surgery. Right. He said 10 players need to be sold. How many of those players have you sold?
Yeah, but this is the point. We didn't need some guy who thinks he invented TikTok to come in and tell us that. Every single fan of the club who is a true fan of the club could have told you this years ago. Those same players, mate. And you've given a big list of players. Those same players I've been saying for 5 or 6 years, they aren't Man United players. They're players
Well, you defend Bruno to an extent.
Yeah, I love Bruno. But the rest of them, though, you know, he performs and he performs mostly. The rest of them, though, look, it's just a simple lack of effort.
Scott McTominay is another one.
It's lack of desire. This is what I can't stand. You know, it's not winning a tackle. It's not wanting to go up for a header. It's not tracking back. It's not covering your mate when he's missed a tackle. It's just rubbish football, mate, and a bunch of This is the best quote ever. And this was, I can't remember who the US commentator was that said this.
You're going to continue to be a bunch of soft, underperforming, tattooed millionaires? You are a soccer generation that has been given everything. You are a soccer generation who is on the verge of squandering everything.
Bingo.
Tell you what,
that's it.
The biggest problem is that you've got a team that consistently underperforms, but there's no penalty. They still get picked. They still get played. They don't get sold. They still get their money.
Totally, mate.
That's what it is.
And you've got guys like Sancho, of course, who we paid £70 million for, who then the manager criticises at training, so he goes and bitches about it on Instagram, doesn't want to play anymore. Goes back to Dortmund, starts playing. It is an attitude amongst those players. You can get rid of that manager, get another manager in, you could get Pep Guardiola in. He's not going to make a difference with this bunch of players. This bunch of players doesn't want to play.
Well, what he would do is he would publicly have a crack at them, and then the club, instead of sacking
bullying.
Well, exactly. But the club would then go, well, it's Pep Guardiola. Look at all the success he's had. The sad thing for Eric Ten Hag is that he's had success in Holland. He hasn't done it in England.
He didn't do too badly with us. He got us in the Champions League last year, won a trophy, a League Cup, right?
I mean, that was incredible. With this playing group. The one area where you can criticise Ten Hag is that the players that you bought in the off-season weren't ones you needed.
No.
Now, Onana has been worse than De Gea.
Anthony, please, give me a break.
That was
holding
terrible.
midfielder, tough tackling midfielder.
Well, you guys should have been the ones to swoop in for McAllister.
Exactly.
You should have got
it. Look, you know, Declan Rice should have gone to United instead of Arsenal, but that's where we're at the moment. We're just a rubbish club full of rubbish players. All right, NBA today. New York Knicks take out game 1. Now, the winner of this plays Boston. Boston have got the Cavaliers. Boston are going to dick the Cavaliers. They're going to sweep the Cavaliers.
They'll probably sweep the conference finals as well.
You think so? You think they're that much better than even these two teams?
I think the Knicks could give them a hard time.
Only because it's that Boston-New York thing going on.
Yeah, they're a tough team, though. They're a physical side, the Knicks. And defensively, they've got one of the best defensive coaches of the last 20, 30 years in Tom Thibodeau. Also, the Pacers are a high-octane offensive team, which is what the Celtics are.
I think they're the highest-scoring team actually over the regular season.
They can't defend to save their lives. And Boston, Boston in terms of their shooting numbers have been incredible this year. So the Pacers aren't going to stop Boston. So they've got to kind of hope that guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown just are deers in the headlights. And
do you still think though that the winner comes from the West? And do you think the winner comes from this matchup here between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets?
Yes, no, I do, because I think...
Because the other one is OKC versus Dallas.
Yeah, I think OKC are a year or two too soon, and they have no size. So if they go up against Denver, if they go up against Minnesota, they'll kill OKC.
So I think the winner of this is going through.
And Dallas have been a bit overhyped, I think, the last month or so.
Keep you updated on the scores, people. Keep you updated on the scores. Why do people on this particular Twitter poll, and I mean, it's just a random poll, but I'm always interested in this, David Fafita, and again, Kempe was bang on yesterday. So the Fisher-Harris thing just got done so quickly. Wow. Out of nowhere. Or did Penrith already know that they're going to get Fafita?
Or they knew that Fisher-Harris was going and they already had their ducks in a row. Now, Fafita's not a Fisher-Harris. They're different players. Fisher-Harris is your hard-ass front row. Fafita is your sort of barnstorming second row. He's going to break the line.
Look at Warriors. This is who I think I've been screaming for years. We need a guy like this.
This is the thing. Yes, you do. You do need a guy like that, but how are you going to entice him over here? This is the thing. I think
by getting top four, followed by top four, followed by top four.
Exactly. You need to put together a foundation. 1 year is not a foundation. A foundation is going back-to-back years in the finals and actually making a little bit of noise. But also, look, the Fisher-Harris signing is huge. It's wonderful for the Warriors. It's brilliant work by the club. There is an obvious link between Fisher-Harris and the Warriors. He's a Kiwi. He's coming back to finish his career in New Zealand.
Yeah.
When you're looking at someone like, you've talked a lot about Viliame Kiko at the Bulldogs, when you think of someone like Dave Fafita, heck, if Payne Haas was ever on the open market and the Warriors wanted to swoop in for him, these guys don't have a strong connection with New Zealand or the Warriors.
No, the only reason they'd come here is if they genuinely believe this team is winning grand final.
Well, if this team had an unbelievably stacked roster, had the Messiah as their coach, whether that is Andrew Webster or maybe, I don't know, Craig Bellamy came or Wayne Bennett came and coached this club. For the Warriors to be able to stay, we're getting off topic here. Back to David Fafita. Look, he is, in terms of just raw talent, the inability to tackle. This guy busts tackles for fun.
He's incredible.
He's been a shell of... I'm biased a bit here because I'm a Broncos fan.
He's been a shadow of himself, hasn't he?
What he did at Brisbane in 2019 and 2020, he was superb. He was absolutely... All his best highlights come from when he was with Brisbane. Since going to the Titans, he hasn't been the same because the Titans are...
Is he going to... He'll end up at Penrith, won't he? He's not ending up at the Roosters, is he?
If he's smart, he'll go to Penrith. Well, look, I've got this poll up here. Just over 1,000 votes. 71% of people would rather him be at Penrith than the Roosters.
Everyone hates the Roosters.
Well, because they've got their salary sombrero.
Everyone hates the Roosters. Apologise to me, Mark Watson. Episode 82 of the regular podcast that we have every Tuesday. I love Watto. Watto says it. He's one of the very few. He's actually probably the only one in terms of New Zealand sports broadcasting who actually brings opinions to the table. Absolutely fearless about it. Speaks the truth, speaks from the heart, speaks with his heart on his sleeve. Talking today about the Warriors in a real hole, the Crusaders. Well, now what happens? Because regardless of even if they crawl into the playoffs, this has been a disaster this season. The Highlanders are probably going to end it for them on the weekend as well. And also, he gets on pretty well with Grant Dalton, just like I do. So why are we the only two? The Warriors. Where is this team at? Because you don't become a bad team overnight. You don't become a bad team in a month. And you don't become a bad team in 12 months.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, isn't it? I just wonder whether they are still just believing too much of their press and they've just been built up so much and they still honestly believe that they can just simply turn it around based on what they did last year. And look, I haven't been a big one reading into the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck coming back, the Sean Johnson, but I don't know. I just wonder whether Sean, maybe some of the habits from previous years are maybe sneaking back in. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, has he somehow come in and changed the culture, or is he just simply playing out of position at the moment? But we've just got to defensively harden up. And look, it was a better performance defensively against the Roosters on the weekend. I probably felt that the Dele Watene-Zelezniak probably should have been given a penalty try, to be perfectly honest. I thought if there's ever an opportunity for a penalty try. But when it's all said and done, it's another loss, isn't it? And I know you and Lachlan have talked about it a lot, looking at the tough games that are still to come. I unfortunately think it's going to be a really tough season for the Warriors, and I can't quite put my finger on why. I'm not sure anybody can at the moment. Can they miraculously turn it around? I just don't think they're going to do it in the next few games. And they're not going to do it in the next few games. I can't see them doing it for the rest of the season. But we've got to start asking some questions now. I picked up the papers the other day, and all it was a little bit about, the Warriors and how they were probably robbed by the referees. And I think it's more than that, and I think that's been shown in the weeks previous.
It's a delicate balance now, mate, isn't it? Because the Giggle Fest mainstream media, which has just been all over this team, is now so reluctant to offer any kind of critical analysis, and I'm seeing more and more of this, Mark, as well. And I'm not just seeing it with the Warriors; I'm seeing it across all sports at the moment. That we seem to have turned a corner in terms of the way that the mainstream media report things. It's all so PR these days. Nobody actually wants to be the person that says, hey, you're just not playing well. You're not actually good enough at the moment. These guys deserve to be dropped. I mean, where's that? Why can't we even have those discussions anymore?
Yeah, look, it's a great one. I mean, started by rugby, and again facilitated by the companies like Sky. And I just wonder whether there's, but that's it these days, isn't it? Where is actually journalism gone? Where are
there's no such
going
thing,
out there
Zero.
and digging? It's just, hey, let's just reprint their PR release, let them control the narrative, and let's just print that. But there's also a bit of a bully mentality, isn't there, that if you sort of speak out too much against these organisations, suddenly you find yourself ostracised, or you're not particularly welcome.
What do you think of Grant Dalton? We had him on the program today before he flies out to Barcelona. I'm so fascinated by the technical side of this sport, which is Formula One on the water. Is it actually about the guys sailing that boat, or is it like Verstappen? You put, the sailors are much of a muchness. You put them in the best boat, they could probably win the thing. All of that kind of stuff. But he's such a polarising figure. You and me actually do get on with him, and two of the only people that he'll actually talk to. Explain why.
Yeah, look, we didn't, let's be honest, Martin, we didn't always get on with him, did we?
No.
We were big critics back in the day, and it was really only through my relationship with yachting commentator Peter Lester, who I've been to a couple of Olympic Games with, who said, hey, actually, Mark, I think you've been a little unfair. I actually think you'd get on with Grant. I actually think you guys would get on. And he actually organised and arranged for me to go out. And look, it was a bit awkward when, Grant and I sort of locked eyes and shook hands. And I said, look, in the talkback game, you can back yourself into a corner at times, and it's very difficult to get out of it. And then you sit down with these guys, and then you start to find out a little bit more behind the scenes in terms of the costs associated with it, maybe why some of the decisions to go offshore are completely and utterly justified. And then you can go, well, okay, that's Grant Dalton just putting a bit of a spin on. But then you go and talk to a whole lot of these other sailors who have been involved in pretty much every America's Cup campaign, who are a lot more conservative in the way they conduct themselves. And they'll tell you exactly the same story in a very different way. Grant, unfortunately, is the one that has to put a face to everything, so he's the one that ultimately cops it. But I like Grant Dalton. He's a little bit like Wayne Brown, the Mayor of Auckland. He just tells it how it is, and he gets on and does it. And he's not one for tiptoeing around and necessarily being PC or necessarily trying to accommodate everybody. This guy is trying to defend the America's Cup. If it was not for Grant Dalton, we would not have won the America's Cup. We would not be in the position we're in. He is clearly a very, very bright guy in terms of being able to lock down sponsorship, and you need a lot. You got more than 100 and something staff in there, and it's Sir Stephen. You take a guy like Sir Stephen Tyndall from the Warehouse, who's a big philanthropist. If he didn't think Grant Dalton was the right guy, if he didn't think Grant Dalton was, of the highest standing, he would not be associated with them, mate. Those guys do not associate with fools. They're not going to have their own reputations damaged. And so, look, we were at the launch of the boat, and he was pretty brutal on the last government in his speech, but he was pretty brutal on the media. And I think there's a lot in that. The media, as we've said, they don't report the news, they make the news, and they take a certain angle. And Grant Dalton, I don't think in Team New Zealand they've been particularly fair on in terms of telling the full story on why they've gone to Barcelona, what really did happen with the so-called whistleblowers of Tom Mayo and co, and who's right and who's wrong there. And if you get the full understanding there, I mean, Team New Zealand 100% in the right here. But, as Sir Stephen Tindall said, we're not a sailing team. We're actually a technology company. And so going back to your original question, are the sailors going to make a big difference? Because I do think when you look across the America's Cup and you look at the different helmsmen and tacticians on board, there's probably not much in it. So it will come down to design, it will come down to technology, and it will come down to what is ultimately below the deck of the boat. But, you've still got to have a pretty good jockey on board, and I think we've got 2, 3, 4 of the best with Nathan Outridge as well. And then you look at our Cyclaws, man, and that's probably where we do have the advantage. Man, those guys and the numbers they are pushing are just simply remarkable. And, I think that's a real advantage for us, just the guys that we've actually got powering up some of the hydraulics.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. I'll present 2 scenarios. You tell me, out of the 2, Lachlan, which is more chance of happening? Yes! The T-Wolves go on from here and they win it all.
Wow, win it all?
They win it all. Or the Warriors make the top 8. What is more chance of happening? Now, take your prejudice anti-Warrior hat off for a sec.
I'm not anti-Warriors.
Take your prejudice bitter Bronco fan choking finals.
You know what I am? You know what I'm anti? I'm anti-everything. I'm just, all my teams are rubbish at the moment. The only team that was performing all right were the Broncos. And we've just lost our most important player.
What is more chance of happening? The T-Dubs take it all, or the Warriors make the 8?
I think it's a tall task to get them to beat the Celtics. The thing about the Celtics that
Celtics haven't got there yet.
No, I know. Well, assuming they do. The thing about Boston is they are brilliant at just stacking up a lead. Hitting their threes, hitting their shots, their offense just clicking and just not stopping. And, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, these almost multi-dimensional wings who are long, who can defend if you need, who can score, relatively big bodies. But when they get down to the crunchy part of the fourth quarter, they need to get themselves on the upper end of a dogfight, if that makes sense. They don't have a great record. It's something like 11-10 or 12-10 or something in the regular season and in close games in the fourth quarter. Anyway, so I just the Timberwolves have just hit another level in the playoffs. They really have. Yep. I mean, they are killing the Nuggets right now.
Destroying
killed
them.
my Lakers.
Yeah, destroying them.
So I think, screw it. I think that there's more chance the Timberwolves win the championship than the Warriors make the top 8. I don't dislike the Warriors. A little bit, maybe I do. But they're in a rut. And their rut's going to get worse because I can't see them beating the Roosters and the Panthers.
I'll give you 2 options here. What is more chance of happening? The Warriors make the top 8, or the Phoenix go on to win it all from here?
No, Warriors make the top 8. Sorry, Warriors make the top 8. I just find it, it's
okay, let's just say the Phoenix make the final, then the grand final. What is more chance of happening out of those 2?
You know what I think is a real disadvantage? The first semi-final leg is in Melbourne.
Why is that a disadvantage? You always want to play the second leg at home.
So just out of curiosity, I know, but think about it. You're the highest seed, you get the week off. Sure, that's an advantage. There's 2 games, but there's no advantage in terms of the fixtures. You've got 1 at home and 1 away. Shouldn't it be the best of 3?
No.
And you get 2 at home?
No, because it's always been home and away. You get played home.
Well, then why do they just have 1 semi-final? Phoenix are at home.
Because they're milking it, mate. They're squeezing as much cash as they can out of it.
I think for a team that's never really been in this, that hasn't been in this position before, I don't think, at least in the newer format that the A-League has, because they used to have a really wacky one that I actually quite liked for a long time. I think it's actually a massive disadvantage for the Phoenix to be playing on the road the first game, because if they lose that game, they don't have a great record at Amy Park at all, very bad record. If they lose that game, they've got to win the second semi-final by a certain margin or win by enough to go to extra time.
What is more chance of happening? Do they make the final or do the Warriors make
I think there's more chance the Warriors make the 8. I think the structure of the semi-finals is going to really hurt the Phoenix.
Yes!
Look, I'm not saying they can't handle the pressure, but the pressure of that they could face in game 2 at home, I think that'll be really hard.
What is more chance of happening?
Really hard.
The Phoenix make the grand final, or Real tomorrow take care of business against Bayern Munich and they make the final of the Champions League?
Phoenix make the final or Real make the Champions League final. I think more chance Real makes the Champions League final.
I'll ask it again in a different... Under different guise. What is more chance of happening? The Phoenix make the final of the A-League Grand Final, or Bayern Munich upset Real tomorrow and they make the Champions League final?
Probably more chance the Phoenix make the final.
So
what's Wellington's record against Melbourne victory this year? They've
1-1 and 1-1.
Yeah. And Melbourne have lost only one more game, I think, than Phoenix, or the same number.
No, they've lost one more. They've drawn 12. They've only won 10 games. They've drawn 12.
Only lost 5, though. They don't lose much.
Okay, what is more chance of happening? Real make the Champions League final by taking out Bayern Munich tomorrow, or Spurs manage to take a point off Man City Wednesday week and throw the title race down to the final day?
Repeat that one again, sorry, that last one.
Well, what is more chance? Real make the Champions League final, or Tottenham next week against Man City? Because Man City have got away Fulham, away Spurs, and then home West Ham. Arsenal have got away Man U and home Everton. So the only chance for Arsenal, if Arsenal win their 2 games, it doesn't matter if Man City beat Tottenham in that game or win away at Fulham. But Tottenham is the game that everyone's looking at thinking Tottenham are a little bit of a bogey side at times to Man City.
Oh, okay, hold up. Spurs have lost to Chelsea recently, was it?
Trashed.
Yep.
Well, it was 2-0, but they got beaten up badly. They lost 4-2 to Liverpool.
And they lost 3-2 to Arsenal in a game where they were down 3-0, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I do not think Spurs form lately has been
Spurs are going to do a
awful.
Spurs here. Next! What is more chance happening? The Warriors make the top 8, or the Crusaders beat the Highlanders this weekend and save their season down in Dunedin?
So just beat the Highlanders.
Beat the Highlanders.
More chance that happens, absolutely. It's a one-off game. You're talking about the Warriors putting together a run of form where they win their last 10 or 11 games to make the 8.
Possible.
Or the Crusaders win one game. You're asking the Warriors to peak for
how about
how many different editions of 80 minutes?
Restructure it. The Warriors make the 8, or the Crusaders make the 8.
See? Warriors make the 8. More chance that happens.
So you've lost all faith in your Satyrs?
My beloved Satyrs, who I've been a big fan of since day one being some stage in 2024.
When did you jump there? You jumped them after about 4 or 5 losses.
Can I actually just say, I was a Crusaders fan first because I was a Hawke's Bay rugby fan. I wasn't a Super Rugby fan. And I attached myself to the Crusaders because I loved Dan Carter, Richie McCaw, Aaron Major, Casey Laulala, Chris Jack, Greg Somerville. I loved all these guys. And Liam McDonald. And then I jumped on the Blues when I realised I live in Auckland. I should probably support the Blues. But no, I jumped on the Crusaders, after 2 or 3 rounds? I think it might have been when they beat the
Chiefs.
No, it was when they were playing the Blues. I remember it because I borrowed my flatmate's Crusaders jersey and we were watching the game at the flat. No, it was the Blues game.
Well, what's got more chance of happening?
Looked awful.
Warriors make the 8 or Crusaders make the 8?
Warriors make the 8.
What has got more chance of happening? Crusaders make the 8, or the Blues beat the Hurricanes this weekend and go top of the table?
Blues beat the Hurricanes and go top of the table.
Then the Crusaders made the 8.
Blues lost their 3rd game of the season, was it? They're on a real run. It's like 7.
They've only lost 1 all season, but they only defeated the Hurricanes.
It was early on to the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So the Blues are on a run of about 6 or 7 wins. And I like the way they're playing. I like the way they look.
What has more chance of happening? The Blues beat the Hurricanes, go top of the table, or the Southern Steel do win another game in the ANZ Premiership this year?
Oh, Southern Steel won another game.
You confident?
Yeah, certainly.
I hope they go on a roll now.
Yeah. It's not really a team
The Blues win it all. What has more chance happening? The Blues win it all.
Your worst nightmare.
I will be shocked and mortified if they do. But if they do, they'll deserve it. But I just don't believe that when it comes to crunch time. I haven't seen them do it yet. I need it to be
Who
shown.
have you seen do it in the Super Rugby comp at the moment? Don't say the Crusaders because they're not making the 8. And if they do, they're losing in the first week. Who out there has more in the toolbox
Chiefs.
to win this stand-up? But the Chiefs haven't won it.
Yeah.
They haven't won it yet.
Well, they've won it a couple of times before the Satyrs went on that run when Dave Rennie was coach.
Yeah, that was over 10 years ago, mate.
All right. Stop living in the past. What has more chance of happening? The Blues win it all, take out the Super Rugby title, or Team New Zealand defend the American...
Team New Zealand win the America's Cup.
You think it's a given?
Yep, they've won it the last 2 times. And when you win it, you set the rules of the regatta, don't you? You set the regulations, and you can mould the event to suit how you want to sail.
Exactly how it works. The Southern Steel, the most losing New Zealand professional sports franchise side, up until the weekend. A losing streak of 21 consecutive matches stretching back 2 years, 713 days. And finally, you nick one. What was the feeling in Invercargill? And those loyal fans who have stayed loyal. How special was that moment? Did she let her players celebrate? Here's Reinga. Reinga, congratulations. What a great story. I love this story.
Yeah, look, it's been a long time coming, but it's so good to get the win.
Well, describe how you felt when that final whistle went.
Probably relieved it was the biggest emotion, I think. It felt like the last couple of weeks that we'd been building to sort of a complete performance. But going into that game on Saturday, I think I was more nervous than I've been in a long time, probably around the expectation of knowing that we had the right people and everything felt right, that we should actually take that win. So, yeah, there was a lot of nerves around it, and the game sort of replicated how I felt. It wasn't a beautiful game by any sense, but it was a game where we fought right to the end and then went into overtime. So, no, a lot of different emotions.
You were 8 down in the final quarter. That's a really big deficit to come back from in any netball game.
It is a massive deficit, and it's really not ideal, especially I thought the Stars had really good momentum and like they absolutely nailed us in that third quarter. And so going into that fourth quarter in the break, I just pretty much said this is the time that where you need to do your job better than you've done at any other minute of the game. We have to be able to turn over the ball. You need to be courageous. We need to get out there and try and get the ball. Once we get it, look after it, take it down to our shooters, and that's exactly what happened. So it was quite a nice thing to watch in that fourth quarter, but it wasn't a nice position to be in.
You've created history with the 21-game losing streak. You've just made history by breaking that losing streak.
Yeah, I think the other thing that people forget is once upon a time we actually won 21 games on the trot as well. But,
you were the team that everyone had to beat. You had to go through you to win a title, yeah, and it wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago, but yeah, look, I think 21 games where you lose is not a nice record to have. So it's quite nice to have that monkey off our back. But I think for us now, it's about really consolidating that performance and moving forward and making sure that each week that we're pushing, to make sure that we get some consistency and some more wins on the board.
Reinga Bloxham with us. During that time, though, it's 2 years and, the 700 and something days, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, do you doubt yourself during that time? How much time do you spend going through every decision you make, overthinking it, that kind of thing? And then how do you remove yourself from that?
Yeah, you absolutely do. I think last year, there was certainly parts of that during that season where I absolutely doubted whether I knew what I was doing. I checked in with people, my support crew around me, making sure that I had all my processes right. I think the great thing was that I've got a really strong management group around me, and I felt that the processes that we had built in the last few years had been successful. So I thought, right, those are the things that are working, so what is it that we need to change? And I think, there was a whole lot of different factors last year that contributed to us not being able to win, especially with pregnancies, injuries, all those sorts of things. But even last year, I felt like towards the end of the season that we were still improving, and I think that's the main thing that you can ask from your players when you're a coach. And this season, we looked back on last season, we took the learnings, but we actually just had to put last season aside and go, right, this is a brand new season, brand new team. And so this season, we hadn't won in 3 games. So when it came to that fourth game, we were like, this is our opportunity. It's time to strike.
And some of your players have been there for virtually the whole of that time, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Look, I think Kate Heffernan's probably one of those players, and Shannon Saunders, even though she was out last year, she was there when we were really successful. She wasn't there last year, but she's come back in, and she just, both her and Kate offer so much to the players out on the court, but also to our community. And then we've got players like, Abby Irwood that's come into the fold. Tanisha Fafita was there, also Jen O'Connell. We've got a real mix of experienced players who've come back in, and then Georgia Heffernan, who is also on that trajectory to doing amazing things in her netball as well. So we've got a great group of players who are just really hungry to keep performing and doing better.
How do you keep positive, and also how do you address your fans who've actually sat there through all of that? Because what a thrill for them as well. I mean, that to me is the craziest thing. There's people who've probably been to just about all of those losses, right? And hopefully they were there to actually witness this.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that really got me. Like, I got quite emotional after the game, and it wasn't about winning for me. It was actually about the fans. When I turned around and I could just see that they just, how much it meant to them was just the same feeling that I was having. I think we are just so lucky to have an amazing fan base and community who have stood behind us through thick and thin. And last year they just kept coming. They kept coming to every game. We were still losing. They kept turning up. This year they came in droves as well. And so, on Saturday afternoon, that win, we wouldn't have been able to do that without them behind us in that fourth quarter and in that overtime. And it was a win for the whole community, not just for our team. And I feel really blessed that they have stood behind us this whole time and just supported us through thick and thin. And they are, like we often talk about, they feel like your family, they feel like that you're proud grandparents, because they're just so invested in everything that we do.
When you say thick and thin, they're quite a bit of thin, not a lot of thick.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of thin, and they just keep coming, and they're so positive. And quite often you bump into a few walking groups at the stadium, and every week they turn up just as optimistic as I do. This is going to be the week, and I think, yes, I hope so. And so it really encourages all of us to get out there and try and do our best.
LBP, let's be positive. Twisel's Matt Gunn joining us every Tuesday, as he does, talking about his doggies. Yeah, they're in the top 8. Our Warriors, they're not in the top 8. His Highlanders, off a big win over MP, they're in the 8 to make the finals. Our Crusaders, no, they lost again. They're not. And also, of course, there's Man United and the Southern Steel to talk about. How do you be positive about half of that? Well, here's Matt. You're 4-4. You're in the top 8.
Oh, we're in the top 8. Just say it again. We're in the top 8. 4-4. I don't know how long it's been since we were 4-4. We have had the bye. We're sitting there on 10 points. We're knocking on the top 4, Martin.
Oh,
if we can get over.
Stop that now. That's just ridiculous.
What do you mean?
That's just ridiculous. I mean, stop that. You're playing the Panthers this weekend, Friday night, mate. Okay, so you're going to be 4-5. So that means you drop out of the 8.
No, I think we might be 5-4 by the end of this weekend. Look, I'm not enormously confident. The Panthers aren't exactly the team they were winning over the last few years, the Premiership titles, but we've got to give ourselves a chance. And unlike Warriors fans, we are steadfast in our belief that when we roll the Panthers this weekend, we end up so much closer to that top 4 that we can taste it. And we are believing, and we are living, and we are loving. And I've got to tell you, we didn't play very well against the Tigers, but we had enough to get over the line. And by the end of the second half, they didn't look like they were anywhere close to us. And in fact, they just lost the plot. They made some of the dumbest decisions I think I've seen on a rugby field in a long time. I mean, what happened to the Tigers? They just move on.
Yeah.
The win was just fantastic. But I've got to tell you that watching the Warriors and the Knights, you messaged me and said, do all these teams, have they worked out how to defend against the Warriors? And I'll tell you what I did notice with the Knights is that they pushed up very quickly out towards the centres in their defensive line, centres and the wings, and the Warriors were not able to get any depth or that second-man play or pass wide. They didn't have any depth on attack, and I know it were terrible conditions, but it wasn't pouring at the start of the game. They seem to have lost a little bit of mojo, and they're going to need Sean Johnson to drop in a few little grubber kicks or a few little chips just beyond the line, because at the moment they're not getting the depth to hit the wings. And they could have won that game, I reckon, but I think in the end the Knights deserved to win it. The way they hung on, their defence in the last 15 or 20 minutes was tremendous in that rain. And what the Warriors look like is that they're just lost at the moment. And I'm not sure where they're going to pick it up, apart from return to the first few weeks of attack, which was lots of depth, which was some extra plays coming out of dummy half with Wade, and we're not seeing it like we did early on. So they need to return to what they had, but they now start to need to read the defence of these other sides because hitting the wingers and the centres out wide, it's not working. Knights had too much speed off the line, and people are now saying, should Rog be at fullback? Would he have been able to make a little bit more room returning the ball? Another tough call there. I think he is a fullback, and he's not impressing me. He did a couple of times early on in the centres, but I think give him a bit more space, Martin. I think give him a bit more space.
Let's be positive then, and let's be positive about our Highlanders and our not the Crusaders. God, the Crusaders are so disappointing week after week. And they're at this stage now, the Crusaders, mate, where I can't even, I'm not even getting any satisfaction when they lose. I'm just sitting there thinking, oh God, all of those All Blacks, none of them are playing well. But the Highlanders can put them to bed this weekend. That's a crackerjacker match to look forward to, isn't it?
Oh, Highlanders and the Crusaders. This is the battle of the South Island, and at the moment, you'd have to say the seventh place Highlanders should take this one out over the Crusaders. They don't have a great record against the Crusaders, but nobody does until this year. And I start to look forward a little bit. What do we got as we move forward? The Crusaders got the Brumbies, the Blues, and Moana. So they might get another win if they lose to the Highlanders this weekend, but they're gone, Burger. They're not coming anywhere. They're not going to beat the Brumbies, who sit in third. Actually, Moana Pacifica at the moment sit above them on the table as well, although you'd give them a fair chance to win that one. I don't see them beating the Blues. The Highlanders, though, we beat the Crusaders, we beat the Blues, we beat Drua. We're not looking too bad.
Oh, hang on a second. Highlanders haven't actually won a game against New Zealand team for as long as the Southern Steel, Matt. I mean, hallelujah. South Island sport at the moment. It was 713 days, 21 games. They hadn't won since May 2022, and they won an extra time against the Stars. Brilliant.
You got to win at some stage, Martin, if you keep showing up. That's what my dad always told me. Look, you'll never win if you never show up, and they just kept showing up. But what an amount of time to be putting an L beside your name.
Yeah.
And you wonder, look, I mean, goodness gracious, it's easy to let go when you're in the raptures of a victory, and I just wonder what it was like after that victory. I mean, what are you saying? 717 days, 2 years. You've just got to go Burko after that, don't you? I mean, forget about the rest of the competition. They're now back on the winners list. That would have been an all-night rage, I think.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.